What's up, guys? My name is Lex Veldhuis and welcome back to another episode of Poker Coaching. In this episode, we're going to take a look at how you can chip up on a final table and how to navigate spots. Let's get to it. Whoa, holy shit. Veldhuis. Good player on a god run. Just gonna jump for value.
Alright, so Hello Tati opens up the low jack, and we cram ace-8 suited. I think this is pretty good. Suited ace-x, good way to go, particularly when you're not off the big blind, and also particularly against early positions. Jamming seems okay with the stack depth, so I'm fine with that. Bump the button, pretty clean. Take a shot here. I'm okay with this also. It's okay. You are getting a little bit short, but I think that in position you're still going to see quite a bit of non-all-in 3-betting here, so I like this. So okay. I probably would have folded ace-10 in that scenario, so that's probably my bottom. But okay. I do like that.
That's good to know. I probably would have went for it.
Yeah. I would fold this, I think. Get the stacks. I think I would fold this.
I also feel like before those hands, like I won a few hands in a row. Before those hands, I was at like 20 big blinds. And I kind of feel like the chip leader Hello Toti just and the high digger and Hender guys. So I have the chip leader and the second in chips in the cutoff on the button. So I really I'm the stack to 3-bet for them right now, right? Because because I'm one of those stacks that has a lot to lose. 30 big blinds, close to the pure bubble. So I figured that I really need to start tightening up, or whenever one of them is in the small blind or something.
Yep. Yeah. Don't disagree with any of that. So. Flat here, I like this. So thoughts here on calling between calling and check raising?
Well, I will say that if our stacks are reversed, I like calling more. I can actually exercise quite some ICM pressure here, so maybe it's good with a cheeky little checkers, but I mean, I block everything that can call, you know? So, in that sense, I think my hand's almost too strong to check raise.
I don't mind calling. I think calling is pretty defensible. A part of why I don't mind calling is because I think it's hard. Like, it's going to be pretty hard to check raise here. I think a big part of that is because this opening range ends up stripping out most of the... even the pairs end up leaving. Like, a lot of the pairs end up leaving. But certainly a lot of the like offsuit Broadway and things end up leaving. This range ends up being very dense. It gets tighter, right? This range ends up being very dense ace-x here, I think. So I think it's a difficult spot to check raise. So I think there's probably a lot of calling in general. So I think this hand, I would expect this hand to mix. So I'm fine with calling. I think this is reasonable when you cover. Basically, because we cover, we have the 5x asymmetry. We have a lot more 5x than this guy does. I think if you don't cover this player, the lead becomes less good because it's actually harder to actually have a 5. You used to do so much folding pre-flop as we're getting. Yeah, very close to the money. Thoughts here on the river?
Yeah, it's a bit hard. It's a bit hard because I definitely have a spade advantage, right? I mean, specifically with the ace of spades on board, I think this is generally a really good card for me. Obviously, I don't really like that card now because I'm more in the middle of my range, so to say, now, as opposed to like super polarized. So I do think that with his small c-bet, he is going to expect me to put a lot of... it would be the perfect scenario for me to jam a lot of my weaker hands. It's almost like as if I want to reverse the fact that, you know, normally you want to offset bluffs with... value bet with bluffs, and I almost feel like this board and the ICM scenario is so good for me that I almost want to do the reverse so that I can put a lot of pressure with bluffs as well. So, therefore, not block bet, not check... I think checking is my worst option. I think I either jam or I bet like 8 to 10k or something. That's what I feel my options are.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of checking. I would bet 10,000.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, exactly. So just to be clear, I said that too, right? I just want, you know, this is like I want my teacher to be proud.
No, yeah. You're your analysis of it was kind of like spot on. I just yeah, I'm not as big a fan of shoving at this point in the hand. So
Okay.
and it's it is possible that with the way that this preflop range is shaped, it's possible that jamming is better than I think. The reason that if we look this up and like ICM adjusted and we solved it and it turns out that shoving was good, one of the reasons that would be the case is because this player's range is so dense ace x that actually it's hard for them to make flushes when the ace of spades is on the board.
Mm-hmm.
So it's possible that the flush weighting is low enough that you can jam here. But unless I saw that, I would block. So I'd go with like a third.
Would it be an okay thought that if, let's say, this flop is not, let's say the flop is ace 6-5, right? Turn 5 river deuce of spades. So in that scenario, I think jamming is better because I have more natural bluffs as well, because there's more straight draws that miss.
You still have a lot of straight draws here that miss. I mean,
Yeah.
you still have like queen 10 and king 10 and king queen. They're not as good because they block where the opponent's fold
Yeah.
me come from, but you can still use those. I think yeah. I mean, I'd probably block in that scenario too. Yeah, and like I said, I think the main thing is this ace of spades. Like this, if this was not the ace of spades, if this was like the ace of diamonds, and this was the jack of spades, I would for sure block.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
so the ace of spades is like a very key
Yeah.
component to the ability to jam. But yeah. Okay, don't mind some pressure on this stack size. Let me just see what these stacks are. You could probably, yeah, I like this. That's fine. Basically, I was looking for people that are watching. I was looking for other shorter stacks. The more other short stacks there are, the more Lex could just use a jamming strategy. But when that player is the shortest player at the table, it becomes more attractive to basically not. You can't put as much pressure. There's not as much leverage in the stack, so you have to be a little bit more cautious. I like the open. I like the fold versus the 3-bet. So that looks good. I like folding there. Yeah.
So sometimes in those scenarios, it's like, I mean, if I have king queen there, then I mean, not to go back with 10, but sometimes when a chip leader 3-bets like this 15-20 blind stack at the final table, I just want to zip it in, But
yeah, I think I think you'd see the suited ace x doing that before you would see king queen, but in this situation, but I think it's pretty tough to, as you say, zip it in. I think it's gonna be tough, but it is tempting. And I think you're gonna probably stick to like ace jack suited or something.
okay, this hand bothered me a little bit because it feels super tight. It probably is tight, but on the other hand, it's such a heavy ICM scenario, and I think that I really feel that the negative implications of losing this hand were a big factor for me, because now I'm back into the Stone Age in terms of stack size. I'm one of the stacks that's heavily in danger. I don't really have any, like, I'm getting to a stack size now that I can actually just play some pots with like other big stacks, right? And all of a sudden, then Wattenloos, who has position on me, will cover me. Hender will cover me, and Wattenloos is obviously one of the best players in the world, has position on me. So I kind of feel like the downside of losing this hand weighs up against, like, it should still be a strong range that he's shoving here, right? But one of the problems I do think with this hand is that he will shove ace 9, ace 8, ace 7 suited, etc.
I like the fold, so that was the first thing. The first thing was
good.
like, when I saw the fold, I liked it. I hesitated on the hand just because I wanted to. I want to hear you talk about it, but yeah, I think that it's a good fold. Your range is probably not very wide here, which I think is like one of the maybe slightly more important variables.
Yeah, raising into the chip leader. There's 2 shove stacks behind me.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not like you're opening a bunch of crap, right? Like that's just not the case. So this is going to be like very close to bottom of range and probably foldable into a chip leader and these 2 stacks. So I think this is like a pretty defensible fold, but I think it's also super close. Like I probably wouldn't fold ace jack. So yeah, that's kind of how I would think about it. But again, just for people that are watching this, three players cash. So there's not, we're very close to the money bubble and things like that. So it's a tough situation if you look at that and be like, I would never fold that. It's like, oh, we're close to cashing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thoughts here. Do you think this was close?
Yeah. Okay. So now we have like runaway chip leader in the cutoff, who has an overwhelming chip lead. Um, I mean, 3 shove stacks. I kind of feel like his stack size handcuffs me a little bit. Maybe I can get cute and make it 5 big blinds or something. Um, I don't know. I do think that King Queen is a pretty good candidate because it opens up all of his ace-x, which does want to steal quite a bit still from his position. So I unblock a lot of his ace-x. Is just going to raise fold. I mean, if you look at the ace-10 fold I made, like imagine how many ace-x he has to fold. So, but I mean, if he has 20 big blinds there, then I just kind of like making it 6 bigs here. Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those again where I just don't think this is a super light opening range. If this is the chip leader, I'm doing something. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to hear you say was that it's really tough to flat in these like ICM adjusted scenarios. So
Yeah. Okay.
that makes it harder. You may still be able to get away with flatting this hand. And I probably wouldn't have folded. So I think that 3-betting is better than flatting, because that's the way that I expect the small blind to work in like scenarios where there's a lot of ICM. So again, for people watching, like I take a big picture view of my range first, and then I go granular second. So I think about like what do I want to do for the most part, and the answer is 3-bet. And then I think like where should this hand go, and the answer is kind of like, well, maybe call. But yeah, I think that from a big picture view, just because of how much 3-betting I want to do, I'd probably do 3-bet this hand. I think jamming this hand is probably defensible. I'd probably do that quite a bit. And then I would call the rest or something. So or 3-bet fold a little bit, but I would probably 3-bet jam or call for the most part.
Yeah.
So
Oh man,
uh,
the capabilities of the king and the queen are just so juicy as well. You know.
yeah, I just wanted to see the opening range. I wanted to see how tight the opening range. Like, just wanted to see if he had aces. Like, that's one thing. If he had like queen eight suited, it'd be like, okay, like, just want to kind
Yeah.
of get
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. This is like not stupid to open,
Yeah.
mostly because like these stacks all have such a hard time flatting. So like the blocker starts to go up a lot in value. The player that covers you is in the most disadvantageous position. So um, don't mind it open there. Get walked, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, we take a shot at this. Think this is defensible. So thoughts here? How do you thinking about this and how it works?
I think I mean, I just kind of feel like my 3-betting range is very polarized. Um, like I'm flatting the king queens or the queen jack suited, etc. And I think that he flats a lot of those. So, like normally in Chippy V, I would just pure c bet this board or whatever, bet 20%, 25%. But I think with the way our ranges are constructed here, he has a massive advantage on this board. So I either want to have a hand with a better capability or some equity or something, or like a club, some future, some multi-street potential. But yeah, I think this is a problematic situation for me.
Yeah, I don't disagree. This is a problematic situation. This is not as good as it looks, and that's basically because you have so much ace x in your 3-bet range.
Yeah.
I think that the boards with a jack or a 10 are worse. I think the queen's like not quite as bad because I think that you can still have king queen off, and ace queen off. So like you can have, but I don't think you should have. I mean, we do happen to have ace jack off, but I don't think you should have this hand all the time, necessarily, because I think that you can flat this hand too. Although again, I do think flatting not quite as attractive in this type of an environment. It's close. I like having the ace of hearts for c-betting, blocking backdoor flush draws, check call. So
Yeah.
that's like one of the reasons why I might have bet anyway. But I think it's close. It's annoying. I think the turn fold's fine though. Like it's like crazy. Okay. Okay, that's fine. So, do you have a shoving range here at all?
Yeah, I think I shove suited broadways when it gets to like 17 bigs and lower, like 16, I guess. 16 bigs and lower, I start shoving my like king jack suited, queen jack suited. Because I know that they become very attractive to use as shoves because they have a shitload of equity. they you actually fold out a shitload of ace highs as well. So, but they don't do well versus aggression.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would, but I felt like we were still too deep for it.
Okay. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
So it does for first things first. It does get harder in some scenarios to shove. This is probably not one of them. So you've got like one of the shorter stacks over here, and they both have sub 20. You cover both. So this is like the type of scenario I think where you actually want to jam this exact type of equity for the reasons you mentioned, which is like this is largely going to be a pre-flop game, or certainly it's going to be more of a pre-flop game than you're used to. The small blind's not going to want to fight as much. They're going to play more of a 3-better fold strategy. What that does is it really kills the EV of Queen Jack suited because you're just not going to see as many flops. It's going to go. It's not going to go I raise small blind calls. It's going to go I raise small blind jams. And that's going to destroy the EV of this Queen Jack suited. So you just take the pre-flop EV and just jam it yourself.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
I would have just shoved. Yeah.
It's always nice to get punished immediately,
All right. I think this is fine. I think that's okay still. Only because it's ICM adjusted. I think it's without ICM, I would just call. Even with ICM, maybe it's a call, but I'm very comfortable with folding, so I think it's okay.
All right, it's 2 people away from the bubble. Oh my god, are you kidding me? First time I shove.
So it's now 2K, 4K. We jam 15 bigs. Seems defensible. Oof. That's not good. Till that's the run out. Pretty sweet. It's pretty sweet.
Oh my god, I forgot about this hand. Suck it.
Yeah. I don't mind the jam though. So
Yeah.
I think that the jam was still like quite reasonable from the cutoff here. So
Bang on the bubble.
yeah, that's pretty slick. That's how you win tournaments, ladies and gentlemen. That's how you do well.
Yeah. In the money.
Yeah. All right. So now we've cashed. So now like, there's a lot less sort of to worry about. Obviously, this player covers us. This player is in second. So still gonna have to be somewhat conservative on the button, or yeah, basically in general, while this player is so short. So I mean, like this open, I think still defensible. It's blocker oriented, but certainly I would be dropping out a lot of my like 7-5 suited type hands in this type of scenario, because that's gonna happen. You can't counter it. You can't do anything. So, so how are you thinking about this type of scenario?
I think I still want to raise quite a bit. So I kind of like mixing in the kings. I don't like whenever I have a big hand and a small blind, I just want to see who naturally wants to put more pressure on the other. And if they should pressure me more often, then I want to slow play my big hands. And if it's the other way around, then I definitely want to raise them because that's what I want to do in general. So that's how I kind of feel about it.
For me, one of the main things about how I expect these scenarios to work is it's like the raising's not as good anymore. So like there's a lot more limping again. That's all. Like this hand's still good to raise. Like it's still viable to have. I'm not saying there's no raising range, and obviously if we're gonna have a raising range, raising kings is not a bad idea. But there's just a lot more limping. Limping is much more competitive now. There's no other shorter stacks for you to leverage. This guy's the shortest, so yeah. I mean, like limping would have probably been a good answer, but this is not a bad answer. So
Okay.
So thoughts here? How do you think about this going into the flop?
I don't know. Maybe this is actually more of a check than I feel it is because I think that I'm limping a lot of my suited hands. I mean, I'm gonna have some of those that I showed earlier as well, like the 10-3 of clubs, etc. But I think, for instance, all my higher club hands, I'm all limping to not get blasted off my equity by 20 big blind stack. I think they're defending mainly suited hands, so I feel like it's a little bit problematic for me.
Yeah. I don't know the answer. This is a complicated situation. I would check or bet small. I think I prefer checking. I think I prefer betting small when I have a club in my hand. So probably gonna check, but I think it's close.
Okay.
Probably gonna check, although I think it's close.
Yeah,
Like betting small is probably not a bad idea.
yeah. I really don't mind. It's on the AC there.
And I like checking over. That's pretty annoying.
So here I feel like we have enough. Like we're also raising a lot. Like let's say like queen five off or something from the small, right? So I think that, or queen six off with a six of clubs. I feel like I have so many single club hands here that I can call with that I don't really need to think about heroing this one.
Well, a lot of those should probably block the river.
Uh,
So the checking range, because they're. I'm not saying none of them can check, but a lot of those are going to be blocking as well.
I think I'm really bad on monotone boards. You know, I think I actually think I'm awful. So there might be that might be the problem.
It's a little tough to map to like he has to be turning pairs into a bluff. So the reason I say that is because there's a lot of your opponent called a preflop raise, so presumably there's a folding range preflop, which means your opponent doesn't have as much like 6-3 off, for example. So you're going to run into a lot of when you bet the flop and get called, you're going to run into a lot of like one club hands, obviously, but then a lot of like 9-7s, 9-6s, 6-7s. Like the better straight draws on this flop, and the 9 really kills those. So it's very difficult usually to turn pairs into bluffs, blind versus blind, because the ranges are so wide. But the difference here is this is a raised pot, and both draws came in. So the straight draw came in through the 9, and the flush draw came in through the club. So it's very rare that you turn pairs into a bluff, but this might be one of the scenarios where it's possible. The big blind doesn't have much 2x, so bluffing with a pair there is not going to be very easy, although it's not impossible. Suited 2x is a part of the range. Maybe that's the way it works. I don't know. So that makes it harder for you to like check call like a boarded pair, like like if you had king 2 suited yourself, it makes it harder to check that and hero call it at a fraction, because that might be where the bluffs are coming from here. So I don't hate hero calling this. I don't mind folding it either. So I think it's close. It's a really bad river, so obviously. So okay, we open up the 4s. Too bit small. I think this is defensible. We get raised, which is sort of predictable. It's going to be a problem that we have to deal with. End up folding again. It's probably close between call and fold. I don't have a super strong opinion, although at the margin I prefer probably calling. The betting range should probably be more polar. Is something that I could say maybe, but I don't think this is a bad c bet. So I think that with the king paired, it's reasonably likely that you can still bet range. But you do see a lot of checking in ICM high risk premium scenarios. But this is I don't know how high the risk premium is going to be here, and if it's going to drive you to that strategy or not.
Yeah.
That's obviously very standard. Again, very defensible play. But you can once again, I just wanted you to be aware that you can't limp in this environment.
Yeah.
Like again, a big part of raising is when there's other short stacks. And there aren't any, so limping is a competitive answer as well. But raising's good. Guess I call. Yeah, you say easy. I don't know if easy is the right word, but I'm calling. Like I would call for sure, but it sucks. I mean, it's still 25 bigs, right? Like,
Yeah.
all right, so now we're heads up, and we are opening, which is fine. And we get a walk, and we open, and we get 3-bet. We fold, and placement of these chips is kind of rough.
Yeah.
Seeing exactly what the action is. He's been raising for people that are watching. He's just been raising. We 3-bet this hand, which is defensible. You're going to see basically like a lot of board coverage type 3-betting. So you're going to see a lot of 3-betting from a pretty wide range of hands. So this is like reasonable. Jammed on. You're going to also see something like a 25% 3-bet, I believe, heads up. So it's a lot of 3-betting. So what are your thoughts here when you limp and then see the flop, and like what's going through your head, how this works?
I mean, I do need to be a little bit careful seeing this. I kind of like that I blocked the jack of diamonds. I blocked some straight draws with the 6. They also offer some, future street potential for me. I think I can make king and queen highs folds, and the one problem would be that this is exactly sort of anything that hits in the middle here is stuff that he's gonna check pre.
Okay. Yeah, you have the high card diamond, so I like the bet like that. That helps with betting.
Oh yeah.
Backdoor straight draw, sure. And yeah, it's going to be a middling range, so it's going to be like a good board for him. You've got polarized equity that's trash, right? So it's easier to bet and like not have to worry about it. It's the type of situation where I'm going to check back more king highs and ace highs, I think.
Can't check raise it. Hand's not strong enough. So then betting big is the good thing. Would be a huge waste to bet this hand small.
Okay, so as you can see, he's just choosing a min racing strat, so it's not that tough. So he bets 50, 55, 60 into 17,000, so he bets a third. Just gonna be calling. So what's going through your head now?
I think as soon as people check in these kind of spots, they're just super capped. I mean, sure, they'll still have some 6-7, some queen jack, some jack 7, but I do think that there are still relatively good barrels, especially the 6-7 one, because you know it doesn't fold a lot of equity if I check raise or something. But like, I generally think I should just think of a way to get the money in, but I don't necessarily think my hand is strong enough to check raise, so I just want to bet big.
I think your hand's probably strong enough to check raise. Certainly close. But I think I bet myself.
Yeah.
So
I would like to, if I bet here, I would have liked to see something like 35.
yeah, I don't think you should go like, large multiples of the pot, because this player will have some straights that fill out on this river. But this seems good. So does bigger than this. So it's like, yeah, like you mentioned, like pot, like 31, some 32, 35, whatever. Yeah. So it's like pretty reasonable. He 2-bets you and you call. He 2-bets pretty small by the looks of things. 48,000. It's like a click back, which seems wrong.
Yeah.
Usually, the click back 2-bet is going to be more appropriate when both players have the nuts a lot. So like if the board was like king, queen, jack 10, right, and like you have an ace and he can have an ace, right? Then you'd see like clicking back because he needs to get value from your 9x component of your betting range, and most of your betting range is just a fucking ace. So if he raises too big in that situation, king, queen, jack 10, he can't create any value. But here, this doesn't really make any sense to me. So it's probably just like thin value, like 10-8 or 9-8 or something. Yeah, thin value, like 8-5.
Nice. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. So much knowledge from BBC. Of course, if you want to learn more from BBC and learn about poker in general, then head over to bbcpoker.com. The links are in the description as well. If you have any question about strategy, make sure you post a comment down below and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Don't miss it. It's going to be the final episode of The Final Table. Peace out.